Welcome back to Tell Me More with me, CJ Quartlbaum. Tell Me More exists to help bridge the gap in our intergenerational workplace dynamics, build better leaders, and ultimately prepare for the future. A part of preparing for the future is taking care of our health. So today, I have the pleasure of being joined by a good friend of mine, the CEO and founder of Black Men's Wellness, Darrell Wade. D. Wade, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks for having me.
Listen, man, I appreciate you doing this. We are ending Men's Mental Health Month with this, critical thing for our time. D, tell the people about yourself. Who are you? Where are you from? And what do you do now?
I'm Darrell Wade. I'm here in Portland, Oregon, and I'm the founder and director of Black Men's Wellness. We're a public health initiative focused on addressing the health disparities in the Black community with a focus on Black men.
How'd you get into this?
Grief. I lost so many people over such a short amount of time. They were all Black men, and they were all under the age of 50, and they were all passing away from similar or the same health concerns, which was either high blood pressure or heart disease.
What are some of the things that contribute to these health outcomes for us? These two in particular.
Oh boy, so that is we're like a working case study. Black men and the Black community in general when it comes to that. So it's diet, it's lifestyle, it's the four main contributors to high blood pressure and hypertension are nutrition, stress and anxiety, environmental issues, sedentary lifestyle. So if you're not being active enough, and then I would say even access to green space or outdoor space. So those are all contributing factors. But what's not being talked about enough is the impact of the transatlantic slavery and chattel slavery. So what researchers are learning is that African Americans specifically retain sodium at a higher rate than other populations. And they believe that this is due to a survival mechanism that we developed on the slave ships as human cargo.
Tell me more about that. How did that work for us?
Well, I mean, we were deprived of water and nutrition, and our bodies essentially went into survival mode to protect us. And so similar to like if you're in a car crash, right? How you might not feel pain immediately because your adrenaline kicks in. And I found out adrenaline is a natural painkiller. So if someone rear ends you at like 40 miles an hour, and this actually happened to me, and I didn't feel anything for like 5 weeks. And so I wasn't concerned about physical therapy or medical bills. I was like, oh, I'm okay. And then after my adrenaline wore off, it took that long. It felt like my spine was on fire. Because my body went into survival mode. We have these fail safes in our bodies that protect us. And I learned that from my physical therapist. I was like, why? Why am I like in so much pain now? And she said, your adrenaline is worn off. And so if you think of it that way, in terms of what we experience through the transatlantic slave trade, it makes complete sense. Because these are the same concerns that you see in folks in Kenya or even the Caribbean, or is it's really is specific to African Americans. And if you've ever read Post Traumatic Slave Syndrome, written by Dr. Joy DeGruy, uh, she touches on that. So there are certain things that traits that we develop biologically to protect us, and then that was passed down genetically through generations, right? So we're still discovering what precautions or trauma responses our body. And that was just a slave trade. That wasn't like actual chattel slavery, like what we went through on the plantations, Jim Crow, and what kind of like what what kind of uh, fail safes went into place to protect us through essentially what is a from white terrorism, right? And so people are like, oh, because I know men that are in peak physical condition and they have high blood pressure. They eat well. They some are vegan or vegetarian, and they look like Greek gods at the pool. And they'll tell you that they're on high blood pressure meds. And so,
Man.
when you think about, I'm the parent to a 19-year-old now. He's driving, and so the effect that it has on me when he just goes out into the world and thinking about daily what he might have to face if he gets pulled over. He finds himself in a situation where that has an effect on our overall well-being, right? And we're constantly trying to figure out ways to manage that. Um, and so,
Yeah, that's the whole study in science of epigenetics, right? That's Gabriel Mate in his book The Body Keeps the Score. He's presenting to us this idea of trauma being passed down through
right,
generations. And
yep,
so I know people will listen to this and they'll hear that and they'll go, yeah, but slavery was so long ago. But if you look at the Black experience in America, it goes slavery and then Jim Crow and then the war on drugs and redlining and segregation and all the things that we have to deal with throughout our time here in America. And you can ask the question, well, when was there a time for our bodies, for our souls to heal?
I mean, that is, man, that's gospel, bro. It's a question we're still trying to answer. I feel like we are constantly trying to make space for our own healing. We're constantly trying to create space and community for our own self healing. And um and that data uh, about the sodium retention, that was from a doctor. That was directly from one of my doctor visits because I have high blood pressure. I'm active. I love hiking. I love the outdoors. I work out. I play golf. And I meditate when I can. Um, I see a therapist. I have a great community, and I still have high blood pressure. And and it's not to say that nothing can be done about it. I don't want to present that at all. But what I will say is that it's not as cut and dry as always like changing your diet. As it takes like some serious um like it takes some serious self work because all of our issues are you are unique in a sense. Like they're
Okay, turn your camera
okay. They're unique in
sideways.
in a sense. So um For one person, it might be they really just need to learn how to manage their stress and anxiety, right? And then for some of us, it is our diet. We need to like cut down on the salt and increase our fruit intakes and um, but what is where where everything aligns for us and what is it where the commonality falls is that what happens to us when we walk outside that door, and how we process microaggressions. When you are trying to you know engage in a wellness practice and you run into that Karen that's threatening to call the police because you're birding or you're trying to hike and someone's making you feel like you don't belong or that you're an other. That is where our commonalities are, because that also produces cortisol in us, and that also raises our blood pressure, which in turn will have an effect on our overall well-being and our internal organs.
So, what is the work of Black men's wellness to help combat these things?
We're here to create community in healthy spaces. We're here to create space for our Black men to be their authentic selves. We're here to instigate healing, promote healing in Black households through regularly hosted workshops, uh, through community events like hiking, cooking workshops, uh, healing circles for our Black men, for them to be vulnerable, connecting them to community resources and educational tools. So um, there's a kind of a research component to this as well. And so the work, I would say, is to instigate Black joy and healing. That is the work for us. And like I said, we just had our fourth Juneteenth annual Wellness Week, and it's a week of activities uh, for Portland's Black community. Um, and it's almost like a week-long recap of what we offer throughout the year. So every year we're trying to offer something new to the Black community, at least that we think we new. So last year we had a golf clinic for our Black men, and all of our workshops are free of charge. So these are typically um, kind of expensive activities to engage in, and that have been almost in a way economically reserved for uh, middle and upper class, almost white communities. We partnered with Arc'teryx, and we had an indoor rock climbing event, and that was beautiful. A lot of families, a lot of babies, climbing rock walls, and but it was crazy. It's like those are enjoyable, and just the way Black people can show up in those spaces. Uh, the community always brings something I feel like special, a little bit different, um, and just to provide some space for us.
We bring a little flavor wherever we go.
And so we
Nah,
always, yeah, exactly. So I always try to like market it. Marketing is a big tool for us. So I always try to market it as um, authentically Black. So for instance, our rock climbing event was called All the Way Up after the Fat Joe. Our kayaking event is called Can I Kayak? And so we have a
yes,
call and
you
response.
can.
Yeah, we do that. We have a call and response, and we say, "Can I kayak?" And the whole crowd goes, all the participants go, "Yes, you can." And so, at all the way up, we say nothing can stop. We talk about resilience, and I say we give a little like talking speech about resilience in the Black community, and I said nothing can stop us, and then they go, "We're all the way up," right? And so there's so much in hip hop that's like affirming that I don't even think that the artists realize how affirming it is. Like, I don't know if you heard like Juvenile's Hard Daily Affirmation that went
Oh, I thought you
viral.
was gonna say back that thing up.
That's affirming too. That's body positivity right there, baby.
She's a big fine woman.
But the ha is what is it? Someone posted when you wake up this morning, do your daily affirmation and remember that you will play it. What is it that you will pay with chaser? You're a paper chaser. Uh, you on fire. You on. It's like one of my favorite affirmations. It's funny because I was not a fan of that song when it was hot, and then I listened to it. I was like, that is an affirmation, you know. Uh, and so there's so many uh, tools, and if you think about it, all that came out of oppression. When Juvenile wrote that song, he was living in the projects. You know, you making something
Like,
out of
yo,
nothing. You
you're
handle your
raw, baby.
biz, yeah, yeah. So I mean, that's something that we try to incorporate in our marketing, and it's been effective. And it also says this is for us. This is for us because we do get a lot of interest from the non-black community. Can I show up? No, not for this particular event. Like,
So hold on, back up. Tell me about the importance of that, of having a space that is just for us, especially in a city like Portland.
oh boy, so Portland is majority white. Oregon is I think 93% white. We're maybe 11% black. Portland is.
Whitest
So,
major city in America.
yep. And so we have to be very intentional about community here. And it's constantly being, well, I would say under threat, but also um, invaded in a sense. And if you know anything about the black community, we can't really be our authentic selves, if we feel like we're being watched, if we feel like we're being policed, and you know, we like to be us. And I believe no one understands us better than us, right? And I think
I
black
would
people.
argue that every community feels that way. So I don't want people to hear that and think like, oh, black people think that they're this own special other thing. I think every community feels like nobody gets us the way we get us. And that's okay. It makes sense, right? You the cultural dynamics, the in group, the shared
Yeah,
experience.
and I can understand that. I think the difference is here in Portland, and a friend of mine who grew up pointed this out and said that she feels like the black community is the only community that's expected to cater to other communities that are non-black, and meaning you have to let us in. You have to let us into your event. You can't do that, right? But other communities don't necessarily face that. Like, you have to let us into your quinceañera. Like, you have to let us into your bar mitzvah. You have to let us into your Vietnamese community center. You have to. But when in Portland, it seems like that is always that is common. I know because I've had those conversations with people and they've gotten highly offended when I'm saying, please reserve us this space, right?
Mm.
And other organizations that are similar to ours also have to put out a disclaimer because you really can't legally exclude, right? But you can say, please reserve us this space. No white allies, please. No non-black allies at this time, right? And there's an event here uh, every Sunday, and it's for the black community at a local community farm. And we partner with them for our Juneteenth Wellness Week. And I actually took that from them. They were like, "Hey, this is space for us. This block of time is for us. No non-blacks, please, during this time frame." And people have been respectful. But for us to have to say that, I don't know of other communities that have to say, "Hey, can you give us this?" They have to ask permission. And
Mm.
um, it's a conversation that I've had. It's one of the reasons I was so bold about the brand of Black men. I was like, what am I going to call this thing? I want to address the health disparities and wellness gap in our community, especially focused around Black men. And what do I want to call it? And I said, I want to call it Black Men's Wellness, so that it's right in front of your face. And even though most of our workshops are open to all gender expressions, the center and the focus is always Black men. So we say Black men and their community, Black men and their family, Black men, you know, and uh, and I know there's some like interracial dynamics, and they're pretty. Thankfully, if your spouse happens to be non-Black, we have a ski event. Then they sit in the lodge. They sit in the lodge, or you know, with the kids, or and they're gracious about that, and they actually understand. That's the great part. They say, you know what, I know that my husband needs this space with his community. I know that my wife needs this space, and I'm not really part of that community in that way. So, and they do that, and it's been great. And I don't think it's asking a lot. Our workshops are like 2 hours long, so if you can't give your husband or your child, even your teenager, space, they need that space. And so uh, I think about some friends of ours mutual friends of ours who adopted two Ethiopian kids, and they were very intentional about, we need you guys in their lives. They need Black uncles and aunties in their lives. They send them to an Ethiopian camp every summer so that they can be around nothing but their Eritrean Ethiopian community, right? That is a form of love, and that is a form of radical love too. To say, okay, I don't need to be a part of this, even though I'm a white parent. They need to be saturated in their culture, right? And that can be
It's a
complicated.
recognition and respect for
Absolutely.
where their kids are from. Because I've met people who have adopted kids. I've met white people who've adopted children of color, and they're like, "Yeah, we're not really worried about that." And I'm like, "Well, when that kid steps outside, when the world sees that kid, there's a sense of identity that is already put on them. And if you don't give them the tools to recognize or wrestle with or even understand where they're from, you're doing them a disservice. And also, I'm going to go ahead and say, like, that's a lack of love, like
I
straight
agree.
up."
I agree. And so you it's okay to allow your partner, your children, to have that affinity space. We're talking about a max of a few hours, right? And even if it's a day, I think that's 100% okay, right? And um, and so we work diligently to protect that space for Black folk, because that little bit of time is healing.
Mm.
That little bit of time is allowing them to heal, is allowing us to heal. That little bit of time is allowing us to refresh, to restart, right? Because at the end of the day, you meet, especially in a place like Portland, just meeting another Black person, and immediately it's like family, you
Listen,
know?
I lived out in Portland. Oh gosh, it's probably about a dozen years ago. And I never forget, I was strolling through North Portland. I think I was going to the Salt and Straw. That's when I discovered the best ice cream in the country. And I'm walking down the
Facts.
block and I see a group of Black people. And one of the guys, like, we kind of look at each other, give each other a nod. And he goes, "Yo, where you from? You're not from around here." I go, "What you mean?" He goes, "All the Black people around here know each other. We don't know you. Where you from?" Like, I don't
Facts.
think people understand just how small the Black community is in Portland. You mentioned a couple of things. You've kind of dropped them in: golfing, skiing, kayaking, hiking, rock climbing. You had a series called "Black People Don't Do That," and all of these things were in that bucket of Black people don't ski, Black people don't hike, Black people, don't do these things. How'd you come up with that?
I came up with it. Can I curse?
Yeah, go ahead.
So those black people don't do that shit is what we're talking about. And it was initially I was going to do workshops in themes. So there was going to be a cooking theme, and there still is. And there was going to be a series. There's going to be a series of cooking workshops, and then there was going to be a series of focused on outdoor activities. There's going to be a series focused on mental health, a series, and so that was our outdoor series, and that's how. And hiking was our first. It was going to be was episode one, and I came up with that because no one. I was the brownest thing out on the trail back in the day. I
Yes,
was the
you were.
blackest thing out there, and whenever sometimes we can be our worst enemy in our communities, and whenever I would post pictures of me on trails, I would get comments and people were saying you doing that white people shit, or they would literally say black people don't do that shit. Um, and so I said, cool, I'm going to call it Black People Don't Do That Shit, and it's going to be an outdoor series, and it just kind of went off. It almost went viral, and uh, people just really like responded to it, and they thought it was funny. They thought it was also cool. But that also taught me the power of marketing. And so, if you know anything about Portland, it's the headquarters, world headquarters for Nike, the U.S. headquarters for Adidas. We have a number of marketing firms here, including White and Kennedy, which is one of the biggest marketing firms in the world. So marketing is huge here, marketing and design. And so I kind of pull from that. I have a lot of friends that work in that industry. So I like, okay, marketing is powerful. It's a powerful tool. And how can I leverage this to engage with my community and kind of like really invite them on this wellness journey with me? And that was how that came about. I need to revisit it.
Yeah, man, you need to bring me out for it. I'm trying to try all them things.
Yeah, bro, we here. We
Except the
outside.
kayaking. Listen, I gotta keep this hair looking beautiful. Um,
Oh man, the kayaking. This last kayaking event was gorgeous. Can I kayak was a huge success, probably one of the most successful. We also had an archery event called Shoot Your Shot, um, and it was
nice.
our fourth one, and also very just a beautiful event. Your hair will be fine. Like we don't get in the water, we don't get wet. Um, yeah, it was dope, man. It was There was men, women, and children, all shapes and sizes, background, and
So, in the
so,
midst of all of this craziness, tell me about some of the big wins that you've had as an organization.
ooh man, what do I? In terms of, because there's so many ways I can answer that question. That we can in terms of
Just what
partnerships.
partnerships, lives changed, whatever.
I feel like life change is where I want to like what I want to talk about, and um, we recently started gathering testimonials and just hearing folks' experience and how with Black Men's Wellness is like the biggest win for me. And um, I don't. Sometimes you're so involved in the work, you don't really have a chance to really reflect on the impact that you're having. And this is 4 years now, and uh, there's a couple testimonials and interview on our Instagram page, and one is a brother. He's visiting from Atlanta. He had never been in a canoe or kayak, and just hearing his story, I was like, oh man, this is powerful. Just hearing his experience and his story. We just onboarded a brother who he had been coming to our event forever, and um, he's just so excited about. He had never been out in the water like that, and he was just so excited. He had brought his son who was visiting from Oklahoma some years ago, and he talked about. He said, man, my son still talks about it. He said he was terrified to get into that uh, that canoe, and it like changed his life. He said he's still talking about it. When are we going next? When are we going? when are we doing this? When's the next Black Men's Wellness event? And that's what I want to hear. And just getting a chance to be a fly on the wall uh, to folks like Healing in Progress, especially in terms of like family dynamics. I'm like, bro, this is so dope. Uh, um, what we heard from our Pan African Snow Day this year, I mean, we must have had over 100 RSVPs over the course of ski and snowboard season, and we caught some testimonials uh, from some of our women, and they were just like talking about like how excited they were and how they're excited to volunteer and work with the organization now and grow the events. It's that makes me happy because when you launch something, you're just not sure.
Yeah.
You're just not certain about how it's going to go, how the community is going to respond, if you're going to have support, and seeing it now where it's at, and not only that, but it's to the point now where we're kind of launching some of our workshops because we don't have employees, we 1099, so we really allow for our facilitators. They're developing their own programs. So I always say, man, the goal is for you like to eventually have your own thing that we're just supporting and we're sponsoring. And we're starting to see that now, especially with Pan African Snow Day. That is a huge success. And the last couple years was really difficult for me with a lot of personal struggles. I lost my dad. Recently single again. A lot of loss, a lot of death, and I was doing work in San Quentin, and I was like, I'm not doing Wellness Week this year. I'm not doing it. I'm not doing. It's just too much. I'm working with these guys, in the prison system in the Bay Area to activate some wellness activities down there and their Juneteenth celebration. I usually go every year. And I was there, and I want to say this was 2023. And I was like, I'm not doing it. Like, I don't have it in me. And while I was there, I mean, I got so many DMs, emails about, hey, we didn't see any flyers for Wellness Week. Is it happening this year? What's going on? We were really excited about it. Oh, no. So I literally had to call my facilitators and be like, hey, can you put something together real quick for this week? And I did that from Oakland. Like, and they did it. They put it together. It was literally, they put an event together. I sent out the email blast, our listserv, and people showed up. And I was like, oh my gosh. So this is, once you launch something, and I had this conversation with one of my facilitators, solid dude. I call him one of our 4-star generals for Black Men's Wellness. Because when he started Pan African Snow Day, he was a beginner snowboarder. And he had come to our Black Men's Wellness snowboard event. And it was called B3 in partnership with Dead Stock Coffee. And it was Brews, Bros, and Boards. And we called it the B3 Summit. And we maybe got like 15 brothers up to the mountain. And that was so much work for me, like just really like building partnerships, getting, community investments, make sure folks had outfits that ready to go to head to the mountain, and equipment and food. We feed folks too. And I was like, I'm never doing this again. and he comes to me, shout out to my man Zoe, and he says, bro, we should do a Black History one. And my blood pressure almost like, I could feel it spiking. And I said, nigga, you do it. And I looked up, and this boy was doing it. He would just bring in Black people to the mountain. He wasn't getting paid. He wasn't expecting anything. Solely growing out of the the spring of his love for snowboarding and his community. And I saw it and I said, I got to get behind it now. I got to make sure he has support. So I reached out to some of our partners and boom. And every year it was growing. And this fool tried to like go a year without doing it. And it blew up. People was like, yo, are we doing Pan African Snow Day? What's going on? I said, I told you, bro. I told him it's bigger than you. You have to do this every year now. You thought this was just a
That's a
meetup.
sign of a good thing.
It is. And I said, I put it, there's a Black Portland Facebook page. And there's a picture that he took. He's also a photographer and a filmer. He films. And it does beautiful picture. There must be like 70 of us in that picture with snowboards and gear and all this stuff. And I just put it on the Black Portland Facebook page, which has like, I don't know how many tens of thousands of people from the Black community. And all I put in the caption, all I typed was "y'all ready?" ? And it got like 700 responses. They were like, people were like, "What is this? Oh my God!" And people who had attended, they were responding, "Oh, this is Black Men's Wellness. This is Pan African Snow Day. It's super dope. I can't wait for the ski and snowboard season." So so getting back to Men's Mental Health Month, we try to create year-round experiences so that, seasonal depression is a thing here because it gets gloomy, it starts to rain. And so now when it starts to, get gloomy or rain, and if it's raining in the valley, it's kind of common knowledge if you're a skier or snowboarder that it's snowing on the mountain. So that changes that. It's like, oh man, it's dumping up there. I'm ready. I'm ready for Pan African Snow Day now. I'm ready to get on that mountain. Like, so for me, even like Portland for me is a year-round city, and the summer is hiking and pools and kayaking and fishing. And in the fall, it's beautiful. The leaves are turning color. So it's outdoor, like saunas and things like that. And then the winter hits, I don't get depressed. I don't just hide inside. I'm like, time to get them snowboards ready. Time to find a cabin on the mountain with a fireplace and an outdoor hot tub. Time to get busy. And then you get through that, and then it's back in the spring. And so that is a way that I think we combat our seasonal depression, and we can address that. And you're also being active, because even if you don't snowboard, if you like hiking, you can rent snowshoes for cheap, and you can hike in the mountain and see all this beautiful scenery and experience nature that way and community. So so that's our goal. We want year-round experiences for our Black community that that they can put in their wellness toolkit.
That's good. So we know we got to get our health in order, our physical health in order. But there's often a stigma around mental health, specifically with Black men. And it sounds like a lot of the work that you guys are doing, it's addressing that very thing. What has that been like for you?
That has been one of the most. We've done a few mental health gatherings and circles, but it's also one of the more challenging things to fundraise for, because so those specifically are for that's the one activity we reserve for Black men. Like, we don't allow women into those workshops. We create that space for Black men. But it's also one of the more challenging things because it's not like cool, you know what I'm saying? Like, we have a partnership with Arc'teryx. They're a high-end outdoor apparel company based out of Canada. And I mean high-end, like $800 for a rain shell high-end. And we met them by chance at one of our events, and they've been very supportive. So they're great. They'll support our hikes. They'll support our wellness walks. They'll support our snowboard events, things like that. But I haven't quite found the support specifically to support our mental health circle. So I kind of have to like uh, we apply for operational funding that you can use for that. Um, but raising support for that has been the most challenging, and because it's been the most challenging, we don't have those workshops nearly enough. I feel like they should be monthly, if not a few times a month. And we've had those requests because when we've had them, they reach capacity. Number one, and two, there's always a request like, man, can we do this more often? Can we have this more often? The good thing is there are other orgs here that are putting those together that we're working on just supporting ourselves. We're working on sponsoring, making sure that they have, wellness toolkits, access to uh, uh, therapy, things like that. And so one of the things I'm working on, man, is a Black Men's Wellness conference. That's what we need. Because what we need to do is we need to bring all of our resources together because we're all siloed.
Yeah. Yeah.
And let folks know this is here. You know, uh, if Black Men's Wellness doesn't have a therapy resource for you, you can go here. You can go there. We can connect you with this organization or this clinical linkage, or if you don't have funding to pay for uh, therapy sessions, and so that's what I want. I want a nationwide conference, to
It's
where
gonna
we
happen.
where we
It
can like
needs to
really.
happen.
It absolutely needs to happen, and because there's organizations all across the nation that are doing great work. There's Black Men's Heal. There's Black Men Build, based out of St. Louis. There's um, um, Black Boys Own, and they're focused on mainly like yoga and retreats. There's there's African American Male Wellness, and they actually do a Black Men's Wellness Day. They stepping on toes though. No, we about to get into a Kendrick and no, but no, but they do a huge Black Men's Wellness Day. And I think it's one day where they do like a huge event that includes walks and line dance and tabling, and they have them in LA, they have them in Houston, and so we love to work on partnerships with organizations like that and say, okay, we have Black Men's Wellness Day, and let's continue that 365, right? By providing these our Black men resources, because at the end of the day, we've seen the negative effect of removing Black men from the community, right? We've seen it whether it's through the crack epidemic, school to prison pipeline, fatherless households. We've seen, there's no denying, the data is there. The data is like right in our face. So, and now the epidemic of early mortality rates, right? Early mortality rates. You have men in their late 30s and early 40s dying of heart attacks. When that was some stroke and heart attack, when that was something we more so commonly seen in our grandparents
Yeah.
that didn't face
I mean, the
those.
decline in health it's insane. There was a
It's
study done a while ago, and it took like every kind of person, and it was like inner city Black man, inner city white man, rural white woman, suburban white woman. They kind of did all these demographics, and the person with the lowest life expectancy by far was an inner city man who
I
was
bet.
disproportionately Black.
Yeah.
So, Darrell, as we round this out, bring it to a close, what are I'd say your top three, just your top three hits, I'll say, for Black men's wellness. Like for you, when you're a Black man and I'm coming to you as another Black man, I'm saying I'm trying to up my wellness game. What are the three things you're gonna give me?
Number one, meditate. Meditate. Learn how to practice circular breathing. Inhale through your nose, fill up your belly, exhale through your mouth. Game changer. Game changer. Inhale through your nose, hold it, literally fill up your belly, hold it, and just slowly exhale through your mouth.
I was about to say, how long I gotta hold this, man? I was getting
Hold it for a
nervous.
few seconds, but even as you exhale, and I can see CJ on the screen right now. So try it again. Exhale. So what I just noticed, your shoulders dropped. So you were like this before, and your shoulders literally went like this. They just
Yeah, I
dropped.
know. I carry a lot of tension in my shoulders. They're always
Yep.
up here, clenched jaw.
Try to
All right,
walk.
what's the other two?
So physical activity doesn't have to be like hitting weights in the gym. Blah 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 blah. Try to at least get in 10,000 steps a day. Try to get in 10,000 steps a day. Uh, and hydrate. Drink water, preferably with a tiny pinch of salt and lime juice from an actual lime. What you want to do in terms of hydration, you want to take your body weight and you want to divide that by 2. And that's how many ounces of water you should be taking in a day. You don't have to take it in one setting. Number 3, increase your fruit intake if you can. I'm not saying make any drastic changes to your diet. Increase your fruit intake drastically, especially ones that are heavy in magnesium and potassium. Those both lower blood pressure. So I was talking to a naturopath and she was saying, I was like, oh, I need to like reduce my sodium intake. And she goes, She said, it's more about your potassium sodium ratio. And I said, what do you mean?
It's amazing how much in nature is right there sitting for us for healing. Man, you gave it to us. Meditate, get 10,000 steps, drink water, up your fruit, and get outside and listen to the birds. D Wade, thank you for joining me on another episode of Tell Me More. And thank you for listening to this as we wrap up Men's Mental Health Month. Hey, drop in the comments below. What are some of your wellness tips? What are some things you do to get your mind and your body right? And I'll see you next time as I ask you to tell me more.